So speaking of like being in the pews,
What's the deal with that?
that's going to be our new thing. What's the deal?
That's Jerry Seinfeld. Yeah.
What is the deal with Catholics sitting in the back? I mean, it's
I don't get it.
it's a stereotype because there's a shred of truth to it. We come into church.
Because the last will be first.
Is that why? We're
That's what I've heard some people say. Wishful thinking.
You do. Like, again, because I'm in the church world, it never fails. And you go to your local Catholic church, it's usually like the altar, father, a couple people, empty pews, everybody else.
Yeah.
What I mean, if you like again, what
I
you're
think they're
saying,
all afraid of getting called on or something like it's school.
Father's not going to call on you.
Because if
It's
you
not-
sat
there's
in
no
front in
pop
school,
quizzes.
people are always worried that you're going to be right up front by the teacher that they're going to call on you.
but here's the thing:
Or you can hide and do other stuff.
if you go to a concert, if you go to a
People wanna be up
show,
front,
if you
right.
want to be as close. You go to a game, you pay extra, right? The nosebleeds are maybe going for $80, and
front row is going for
front row is going for $2,000, and people pay, and it's like you're coming to the quote unquote best show on earth, and you're gonna sit in the back.
Not
like
me.
I want to get us. So there's two things that keep me from going up front. I do have the kids, and
But I've also heard the opposite of that.
Here's
Like
the
when
thing.
you bring the kids, a lot of times the closer they are, the more they feel
not my
like
kids do.
Yeah, but a lot of I've heard a lot of people that's what they would. One time though, my son when he was young, he took off and ran right up to the altar. It was hilarious.
Yeah,
let
not
the
my
children
kids.
come to me. He said.
If anything, my kids, especially Jacob, he's going to hang out with Mike in the media room. Like,
Yeah,
He loves it.
yeah. But that's the thing. It's like, okay, I don't go up because I got the kids, and here's why. It's not that I don't
you're
want to.
usually doing like church. You're like,
Well, that's the other thing.
stuff.
Like I want to. If I am in church, I try to stay as close to the guys, even though they have it under control. But you never know; they might have to tap you on the shoulder, or like you might have to jump in. That's a tangent. I'm saying, like, as a Catholic dad coming to mass, I want to be mindful that I'm not causing a distraction because sometimes that does happen.
well,
Like,
then
yeah,
you can excuse yourself.
it's okay
you know,
for kids to cry in church.
Yeah.
But if your kid's excessive, because again, it's not just you and God, it's not just you and your kid and God.
You don't want to.
I'm here with the assembly.
There's somewhere in
There's
between.
decorum.
There's somewhere in between
Yeah.
being, crazy, crying
So
and a tantrum. There's
we'll be
somewhere in
sitting in
between.
church and it's like, okay, he's got to go to the bathroom. You take him to the bathroom because he went to the bathroom. His sister wants to go to the bathroom. Now we're taking her to the bathroom, and then you're bouncing the baby. So like, there's practical reasons why. So it's not.
But you're talking about people
sit in the back.
without kids who come there. They just sit in the back no matter what. They'd rather sit in a folding chair in the back than any
Then,
pew.
yeah, it's like, do you know what's happening on that altar?
Yeah.
If you could see through
Eyes of faith.
through eyes of faith, if you had God goggles on, and you could actually see the Lamb on the altar, surrounded by his mother, the throng of saints, I'd want to be as close to the action as possible.
Yeah, I've been going to daily mass now almost 4 years, and I started going in the front row.
It's a different mass experience.
It's a way different mass experience. And then one time, they asked me I'll do like the altar serving and do the readings sometimes. And the one time, like they had the bells like right on the altar, basically. So I was like, this is the altar. I'm like here. I'm like kneeling right here where he's like holding, like I'm like almost touching me, you know? I'm like that close. I was like at the Super Bowl. That's what I felt like. It was like, it's hard to explain it. But for me, as somebody who didn't grow up being an altar boy, it was like every time still I get nervous. Like, it's like they asked me, it's a privilege to be part, of, I get to ring the bells and stuff. I'm like, I'm all into it like a kid. But to be that close, it's like, it's such a privilege. And like, no, he's giving me a piece of the broken hose. I get to, like though everyone doesn't get the wine, I get, he dips it in the wine. I'm like, I want to be as close as possible because I believe, I know that that's Jesus. I want to be that close. So it's like, well, what's causing you to want to be back? What artificial barriers are you putting up?
Yeah.
Because that's what, are you afraid of what
Are you uncomfortable?
Are you uncomfortable because like we talked about last week with confession, like spiritual nudity? Are you uncomfortable because of your sinfulness? Are you uncomfortable because you maybe don't believe a lot? Like, take that act of faith, that leap of faith to like, no, he wants you to come closer. He was calling you. He wants you to come closer. Not that it makes you any better of a Catholic because you sit closer or worse because you sit in the back. But the fact is, you should maybe keep those back pews for the people who are never come, because they're maybe afraid to take those first ones. And you do come, that, hey, no one's going to bite you. He's not going to hit you with a super soaker up front. He's not going to, Father Miletta does once in a while do some talking, and, it gets real close, which kind of can be weird, for people. I get it. But like, for the most part,
Yeah.
You may get on the camera, I guess, but
most churches don't have that. You don't
most
have to worry about
churches
that.
don't have that, but you're missing out if you've never experienced mass that close. Then you should at least try it and see. Don't be afraid. There's no pop quiz. You're not going to get called on. Maybe. Most people don't.